Look at these two faces. Which person seems more competent? Who would you trust with your money or hire for a job? If you are like most people, you instantly favored the face on the left. You didn't make a conscious, rational calculation. Instead, a deeply ingrained biological reflex took over, a phenomenon psychologists call the "what is beautiful is good" stereotype. To understand why this happens, we must look at how facial science defines beauty. It starts with averageness. In biology, average does not mean ordinary. When researchers take hundreds of faces and mathematically blend them together, the resulting composite is almost universally rated as highly attractive. That perfectly average face is a strong biological signal of genetic diversity. The next requirement is symmetry. Scientists measure fluctuating asymmetry, the tiny random differences between the left and right sides of your face. A highly symmetrical face indicates an individual made it through fetal development without encountering severe environmental stressors, parasites, or genetic mutations. Our standard for physical beauty is actually a prehistoric survival mechanism. When we look at a highly attractive face, our primitive brain is successfully scanning for parasite resistance and genetic stability. There is a catch to that opening experiment. The face on the right was mathematically manipulated to be 100% symmetrical. For most people, looking at that pure perfection feels unnatural and slightly unnerving. Real human faces always contain subtle irregularities. Scientists refer to the presence of these slight physical deviations as facial charm. Your brain requires these micro-asymmetries to stay cognitively engaged and to recognize the face as a living, breathing human being. We inherited this highly calibrated biological scanner to help us select healthy mates and ensure the survival of our species. Today, we point this exact same ancient hardware at our peers in offices, courtrooms, and classrooms. We are taking an evolutionary metric designed to measure physical health in the wild and using it to grade a modern person's intelligence, character, and professional capability. In 1920, psychologist Edward Thorndike gave a name to this specific cognitive error. He called it the halo effect. The halo effect occurs when the brain observes one concrete positive physical trait, like attractiveness, and blindly generalizes it. The mind takes that single aesthetic glowing circle and uses it to invent abstract virtues, assuming the person must also be moral, capable, and intelligent. We understand this today as an unconscious mental shortcut, but for centuries, humanity thought this link between appearance and personality was a literal, undeniable fact. This historical illustration is from physiognomy, a pseudoscience claiming you could read character directly from outer appearance. Practitioners believed facial proportions dictated whether someone was honest or devious. Academics intensely measured skull curvature, convinced these physical structures were rigid psychological proxies. It is easy to look back and laugh at the idea of measuring skulls to find an honest worker. Yet the halo effect shows our modern brains silently run the exact same calculations every time we meet someone new. There is an ironic twist buried in the modern data. Psychological studies show a measurable correlation between highly attractive faces and positive traits like extroversion and conscientiousness. This happens because of a phenomenon known as the Dorian Gray effect. Attractive people aren't born with superior personalities or advanced social skills. Those traits are constructed over time by how society reacts. From childhood, attractive individuals receive warmer treatment, more attention, and greater benefit of the doubt. This steady stream of positive reinforcement builds higher confidence and sharper social skills. Observers then look at that confident behavior and perceive it as high competence. This chart on the projector represents the very real disparities we see in the corporate world. Decades of employment data reveal that attractive candidates are systematically recommended for higher starting salaries, evaluated as more qualified, and promoted far more frequently. It operates as a massive, unconscious, self-fulfilling prophecy. Society expects beautiful people to be highly capable, treats them as such, and slowly manufactures the exact success it expected. However, this biological bias does not offer universal protection. In specific situations, physical attractiveness suddenly shifts from an advantage to a heavy liability. Researchers call this the beauty is beastly effect. They found that the halo effect fractures depending on the applicant's gender and the specific type of role they are trying to fill. While attractiveness generally helps both men and women in entry-level positions,
Highly attractive women face severe penalties when applying for managerial jobs or roles traditionally dominated by men. This chart shows the perceived competence of attractive female candidates. Notice how the positive score collapses the moment the position shifts to management. Evaluators perceive a lack of fit between conventional expectations of feminine beauty and the aggressive, assertive traits mistakenly assumed to be necessary for masculine leadership. The halo effect grants unearned privileges to some, while enforcing rigid stereotypes that punish others. It penalizes anyone who dares to step outside of their expected social role. Ultimately, physical attractiveness is nothing more than a biological indicator of genetic stability. It is a measure of health, not a resume of personal capability. As long as we remain blind to these deeply ingrained biases, our evolutionary reflexes will silently dictate our most important decisions, influencing who gets hired, shaping jury verdicts, and organizing our social hierarchies. A first impression is just an ancient calculation happening in a fraction of a second. By recognizing the neuroscience behind it, we finally have the power to override that primitive programming and evaluate human beings for who they actually are.